Hello, everybody, and welcome to another week of Let's Talk. I am your host, author Dre Lett. Thank you for joining me for another fun-filled week as we get into informing, inspiring, and motivating you. Every week, as I tell you, you can purchase my books on my website on www.dtlproduct.net, or you can purchase them on Amazon.com. There you will find a full description of my books and a bio. Every week, you can also view the show Let's Talk on several platforms. On Facebook, you can view it on Let's Talk with author Dre Lett. That's a Facebook page. Another page is Dre Lett. And the third page is DTL Productions. You can also view it on Instagram with author underscore Dre Lett. And of course on YouTube, you can find all my shows there for the past couple of months. You can binge watch them if you want. And make sure you hit like and subscribe. It's free to subscribe. And that channel is called Let's Talk with author Dre Lett as well. So let's get into hot topics. First off, let me tell you real quick, this is what I call Survival Friday. So you probably say, well, what is Survival Friday? Basically, when you look in the news and you see all the stuff that's going on, you're like, Lord, the economy, politics, kids are at home driving you crazy. Some of you are out of work. So this is called Survival Friday. How do we survive and get through this? So I've got some special guests that'll be coming on in a few minutes. They're three mature men, Marc, Mike, and Norman. They're going to share with us the blueprint of survival for the African American man in today's society. So stay tuned for that. That's going to be really, really good. We're going to get into some deep, deep discussions, and I want to make sure you guys chime in with your questions and just any comments, period. So let's get into what I call hot topics. Okay, so as you guys know, October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And as I told you last week, and I'm going to say it every week, is that this is, you can find out where you can get free screenings if you don't have any medical insurance, or if, things are tight, they've got some low cost screenings for your mammograms, ladies. You can go to www.cdc.com and get more information, or you can go to American Cancer Society, and there they will give you more information about free screening or low-cost screening. So please make sure you get those. Guys, make sure you support the ladies by telling your mothers, your sisters, your next door neighbors, your coworkers, everybody. And make sure you support them by wearing pink at some point during the month of October. Real men wear pink. So let's make sure we take care of that, ladies. So, with further ado, as mentioned earlier, I have three mature men in their 50s and 60s. They have lived and seen it all, and they would like to share with us their blueprint of survival for the African American man in today's society. So, without further ado, I'm going to bring them all in and I will introduce them to you guys. It's going to take a minute for them to connect. Okay. All right. Marc, can you hear me?
I hear you.
Okay. Norman, you're muted. Mike, can you hear me? Can you hear me, Mike? And Norman, you just got to take your mute off.
Okay. Can you
Okay, I
hear
can
me?
see Mike. Yep. And Norman's got to take his mute off. There we go. How you guys doing?
Good, good.
Good.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay. So, everybody, I want to introduce you individually. First, we have Mr. Marc. He is a retiree from the city of Atlanta and has spent his entire career encouraging and mentoring young black males. He belongs to an organization that always give back to their community. He is a loving father and husband, and when possible, he always encourages millennials. Welcome, Marc. How are
Well,
you? Good, good, good. Okay. Next, we
thanks
have
for having me on your show.
absolutely. Next, we have Mike. Hi, Mike. Wait, so everybody know which one you are. Okay.
G-Dog.
That's our nickname. Mike is an Army veteran. He transports essentials for all Americans throughout the Southeast. He's an avid adult roller skater. where younger skaters look up to him. He is a father and grandfather and prides himself on sharing his experiences and giving advice to his offspring. And Mike, it looks like you are in your semi now. What dedication, brother. Thank
Yeah,
you.
somebody got to do it.
Thank you so much. And at the bottom there, we got Norman. Hey, Norman. Okay, and Norman, he is the director of Bible studies at Set Free Atlanta Community Church. And he is a supervisor with the transportation company where younger employees look up to him for spiritual guidance and seek his advice with real life situations. He is an Air Force veteran and he always looks for a way to help mentor the younger male generation. Welcome, gentlemen, to Let's Talk. Thank you so much for coming on. Audience, as we get into some deep conversations, I would like for you guys, I'm checking as we go along, to submit questions and comments, and I'll make sure to feed it to the guys as we go on. So you guys staying safe and washing your hands and wearing your mask and all that good stuff, guys?
Yes, we are.
Definitely.
Good, good, good. Norman, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
I can hear you. Perfect. Perfect. Absolutely. Okay. So, guys, can I ask a couple questions to get all into this so we can see? I'm curious to see what your thoughts are, and the audience is curious to see what your thoughts are on these different controversial issues. So, let me ask this first question to Mark. What was it like growing up as a kid in your household, in your family? Did you respect authority? And if you didn't, what would your parents do or say to you?
Well, it all starts at home. I didn't have a problem with authority because I knew if I did not do what my parents said, that it would be consequences. And I never really had a real problem. My parents were good parents. There were things, that I'm sure occurred back then I didn't understand at the time, but I understand now, and I was told that years ago. So the experiences were real good. Um, Nothing negative to say, but I understand everything now today.
And so, if you ever got in trouble, was there, did you get what we call whoopings, punishments, or?
Oh, when I was younger, I got whippings, and my whippings were from my mother.
Woo!
Never got it. Never got to my father. If it got to my father, it's real serious. And
Yeah.
then it got to a point where, back then, Bruce Lee movies were out, Enter the Dragon, Return of the Dragon, and I would go see them. And it got to a point, I think one day my mother whooped me, and I just wouldn't cry. I just flinched. I just
No.
flinched, and then she just looked at me like I was crazy. And then after that, it was punishments. So, and the punishments were you can't go skating. So that
Oh, and
was
I know
big.
that's.
I wanted the whooping, but no, you're not going skating. But for the most part, I think growing up, my parents were good parents, and I had a pretty good childhood.
That's good. That's good. What about you, Norman? What was it like growing up in your household?
In my household, we were taught self-reliance and independence because it was really hard when we were growing up. And so my mom wanted to instill in her three sons to be able to take care of ourselves. And so, we were taught things like how to cook, how to clean, how to sew, responsibilities in regards to our chores and how to take care of the home because she was bringing home the bacon. So we had to do everything else. And in regards to respect, there was no such thing as talking back or taking some type of posture, because you end up getting knocked off the floor. And punishments, they dish those out anytime that you felt like they used the word you smelling yourself. And so, discipline was instilled, but at the same time, she just taught us the values of being able to take care of ourselves because she wanted to understand it's a hard world out there. And so if you didn't know how to take care of yourself and you need someone else to take care of yourself, she wanted to avoid that, for her son. So it was hard sometimes, but when you get older, you respect everything in the decision that she made because she was a very wise person.
Mm, definitely, definitely. What about you, Mike?
Wow. I do have a sister. but we didn't grow up together. Um, so I was like an only child in the house. I was not spoiled at all. I can say my grandmother spoiled me, if anything. Uh, it wasn't no back talking. You couldn't be in the room when adults were in there. Um, as far as doing chores, it was a must do. My grandmother is from the old school, and my grandfather's from the old school. My grandfather, a man does everything outside. My grandmother, a woman does everything inside. Now and then I go to my grandmother's house for the weekend, and like one time I went to clean up the house because that's what I wanted to do. And she's like, no, 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 you don't go outside, you cut the grass. I get home and try to pull it with my mom because she told me to do the dishes before going to bed. And I said, well, grandma said I don't have to do this. And she was like, well, you in my house. So I called grandmama up to tell on her. Grandma said, okay, when we hang up, I'm gonna call your mama up. She the phone rung just as quick as we hung up. She talked to my mom's. I can hear my mom say, well, mama, this is my house. This is how I run things. I don't want my son to grow up not knowing how to cook, not knowing how to sew his own clothes because he may be by himself one day. He might not have a woman to take care of him that way. Mama got that phone. She said, meet me in your bedroom. And I don't have to say nothing else after that.
You got what we call a whooping, huh? Right?
Oh, definitely.
So let me ask you guys, do you guys think that the younger generation today that maybe we wouldn't have half the problems we have if they didn't get whoopings? Like for example, they can call, I'm gonna call defects on you, or you can't hit me. What do you guys think about that? Do you think whoopings should come back, or what are your thoughts on that? Norman?
Well, I don't think necessarily that, we have to spank or beat our children, although, it worked for us. But I do think that family values have to be restored. And I think that you have to spend quality time with your children so they can be able to identify that you are the parent and they are the child. And that's what's lacking. And I believe that's the reason why a lot of these children, and in some cases, even some of the older, younger adults are out of control because they didn't have that quality time, with their parents to instill the values and different things that they need. A child is a sponge, it's smart. You don't have to beat the child to death in order for the child to get it.
Mm-hmm. That's true. I can agree with that, definitely. Mark, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think whoopings should come back or just?
Well, I think there's a difference between a whooping, a spanking, and a beating. Okay.
Mhm.
Um, you know, uh, these kids now, they'll call the police on you. Okay. But my thing is, I run my household, and those parents should run that household. I'm not saying you need to go directly to a spanking. Eventually, my mother went to punishment. Okay. Took away some things that I wanted to do, and that straightened me up. But for the most part, I just think that you should do what your parents are telling you to do. But sometimes your parents are going to have to do something to wake you up.
Mhm.
And that's pretty much it. These kids are calling the police, for a spanking, and it's like, well, did she beat you? Did she set you on fire? Did she shoot you? No.
Right.
So, yeah,
They have to
uh,
be accountable. They
you have to
definitely
be
have to be
accountable.
accountable.
You know,
Absolutely, absolutely. So with the way that you all grew up, did you guys, what were some of the key principles that you instilled in your children growing up? So Norman, you had mentioned you don't necessarily think that the whoopings. So with your children, you instilled punishments and things of that nature?
I mean, there was punishments, but it had to be something that warranted that punishment. What I tried to do with my children was to get them to always think positive, to be always willing to listen, to strive for excellence, and don't allow their emotions to change their life in a matter of seconds. So sometimes, you can say and do things that could change the whole outcome of what could have happened, by you jumping to conclusions or being very emotional about, a punishment or something that you may receive. So I did do punishments, and when that time came, you might be stuck in the house for the whole summer if that's what was warranted. But primarily, I just want them to understand, learn how to listen. Because if you learn how to listen, you can save yourself a lot of heartache and a lot of hardship by just listening. I think Marc had said earlier, follow the instructions. The instructions that we give our children are not instructions that you can't follow. They're for your own good. So punishments, yes. I think God didn't really allow me to raise a male child because I probably would have killed him. In 100.
Now we know you don't mean kill for real. You just mean like whoop
No,
them.
not kill for real, but just, because,
Yeah.
that male child is going to raise up at you.
Yeah.
And they'll try you, and so you're going to have to let them know that you're still the son, and I'm still the father.
Absolutely. What about you, Mike? What's your thoughts on that? How did you raise your children? Similar to Marc and Norman?
Well, with 2 daughters, 2 sons. Well, we already know I got one son that passed away.
Yeah, sorry for your loss.
I never had to whip my daughters. I just give them a look, and that's all I had to do. My oldest one, never had to whoop him either. Just give him a look, because that's how they work. But that other one, oh yeah, he tried me a lot. Had to stay spanking them hands.
Wow.
So
So you did a little bit of both. Yeah, I get
right.
it. I get it. In
They
my, I'm sorry, go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
No, I
I was
was
gonna say that. Uh, Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, Marc mentioned earlier, sometimes it's like those whoopings are like, it's quick, it's over, right? But the punishment, oh my goodness, like Norman, you could be in the house, like you said, in the house all summer, and Marc, you said no skating. That's like the worst, worst, worst. So at the end of the day, I think it should be more punishment than whooping, but definitely they got to be held accountable. They got to be. Because if not, they're going to go out into society and they're going to think that, well, okay, at home, I wasn't held accountable. So now I'm in society. I don't got to be accountable, right? So
Right.
it does start at home. It does start at home. So where do you see the structure of the African American family like in 10 years, with all this stuff that's going on, the pandemic and, you know, the politics and job loss and police brutality, Black Lives Matter. Where do you see all this, Norman, in 10 years? You see it's getting better?
I don't know if it's going to get better. I would like to think that would get better because, the millennials have educated themselves. There are a lot of more entrepreneurs now. I think the problem that we're having is we're not restoring the family values. I think we need to restore the values in our home in order for our homes to be more successful, going forward. We're always going to be faced with a lot of challenges. But if we don't start in our home and instill those values that we were brought up with, so that they can understand that there are going to be some hard times, there's going to be some hardship, but it depends on how you respond to those things because you're going to get knocked down. The problem is that you can't stay there. We have to teach our kids, and even the millennials that when you run up against something and it's uncomfortable, it's okay. You're just going to have to push through it because if you're able to do that, there will be a reward waiting for you on the other side.
Absolutely. Richard said that, I'm reading the comments from our live audience. He said it takes a strong man to survive growing up without a father. Absolutely. Because I would think that you need that male structure, that male dominance. Because a woman, she can only do so much for raising a boy. So absolutely. So Mike, I got a question for you. Now you are in the transportation business and you're on the road a lot throughout the Southeast. What are your thoughts on, well, rather, what advice would you give someone if they're confronted by the police or they're pulled over by the police? How do you handle it, and what kind of advice would you give the younger generation?
The first advice I give them would be to comply.
Mm,
I know that would be the hard, especially the way things are going today. It'd be hard to do, but like my grandma said, you killed with kindness. that's more than half your battle. You know, I've been told that plenty of times. I've heard it plenty of times. If you comply, this don't even go with the authority. You know, it helps at home too.
Mm-hmm.
So if you comply, you will advance. You would um, more be accomplished.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I go with the situation that I was in, driving, going through a way station. They pulled me in. It was a female officer, and she asked me if I want to sit down. I said no. I've been driving. I would prefer to stand. And she said, no, I demand that you sit down. I said,
Ooh.
but you gave me a choice. She said, well, this is not a choice.
Woo.
So I didn't argue with her. I complied with her. I sat down. After everything was done, you know, she got my physical card and everything and my ID, checked everything out. Everything was good. You know, I told her, so you have a nice day and I'll pray for you. And I kept on going.
You said I pray for. Well, you trying to be facetious, but you.
But she felt like I was being funny, but, you know, I was, you know, trying to kill her with kindness. You know, I don't know what kind of mood she was in. It's a good thing I wasn't in a bad mood because these days we don't know
Exactly.
what like perfect example road rage. If
Oh.
somebody's in a certain mood, I might fuss at somebody. I don't know what kind of day they've been having. You know, they could have like I must switch the table around. Like y'all know, being close. You know, I done lost my moms. I done lost my son. Recently lost my pops. So it's no telling what's going on in my mind. If somebody say the wrong thing, and that's on my mind, I snap. 'Cause down there, I'm looking at being at the bad person
Mm-hmm.
because they didn't know what was on my mind. So I look at other people the same way. I don't know what's on their mind. So I try to. I'm saying this for my own benefit too, because I get upset with other people too. But it's just, you know, try to find out what's going on. Hey, you need somebody to talk to, and this don't matter what age you are. You know, take them by the hand and say, hey, can we talk? You know, something bother you? You know, and go from there.
Definitely. And I have a 20-year-old son, and what I tell him is that, if you get pulled over, comply. Do what they tell you to do. Even if they're telling you something crazy and you burning hot mad, just keep it together. And if it's so foul, live and sue, right? Just live. Just do what they tell you. You may not agree with everything, but just live, because some of them, it's a whole lot of good officers out there, but there's some bad ones, and the bad ones are wanting you to just do that wrong thing. Norman, what advice would you give the younger generation in terms of the police?
Well, what has always worked for me was compliance. One of the things that you should always, if you're able, is to make sure that your license are good, to make sure that your insurance is good. And in addition to that, don't go on the defensive. Give the officer opportunity to find out what exactly is that he wants from you. And if you're able to provide those things to him, I think you just have to keep your emotions in check. Anytime that I'm pulled over, in my mind, I'm saying, well, I'm good. My license is good. My insurance is good. So I don't know what the problem could be, but whatever it is, I know that I'm okay. So I'm already in compliance before he even stops me. I think one of the things is, if we're not in compliance, with our insurance, with our license and things of that nature, then we immediately take a defensive posture because we're already guilty, and the officer already knows before he comes to our car, what the problem already is in regards to, our license of our insurance or whatever. So it's what you say and what you do when he approaches that vehicle that's going, in some cases, determine what the outcome is going to be. If you have a negative attitude and you're already defensive, then immediately, he's going to become defensive, and you're going to find yourself in a position of checkmate. You never want to be in that position, so just comply and be courteous.
And, um, we was running late for church one time for your cousin Mark, and I was flying down the road, and Latrina made a comment. She said, "You know how fast you're going?" I said, "Yeah, I know how fast I'm going." And sure enough, as we came around the bend, cop was going the opposite direction. I knew I was wrong. I went ahead and pulled on over. He made his U-turn. He came back, and he was surprised that I even pulled out. I didn't try to take off or anything. And my stepson was in the back seat, and he looking around like, okay, why you pull over? I said, well, the police behind us. He said, I don't see nobody back there. I said, he be behind me in a minute. He pulled up and said, he see there, he's behind me. And he looked. He said, what was you really doing? I said, I was speeding. You know, I already had my license, like Norman said, I already had my license together. And um, to be honest, my insurance wasn't up to par. So when he came to the car, you know, they already run everything before they really get to you. And he said, well, you have a CDL license? I said, yes. He said, by the looks of things, y'all are headed to church. I said, yes. He said, you know what? You get yourself taken care of tomorrow, because I don't mess with God's people. So y'all have a nice day. You get yourself taken care of, and I don't want to see this no more. You just got a
Wow.
warning, because you was flying down that road.
You got like God was on your side that day for
Big
sure.
time, big
For
time. I
sure.
got to take care of that next day too.
Yeah. You know, I was watching CNN or the day before last, I think it was, and they had the officer on there that was part of the Breonna Taylor, God rest her soul. And I know it's controversial, but he was on there and he was giving the interview and he talked about how when they were coming to the apartment, had her boyfriend not fired the first shot, that it would have went a whole nother way. But when he fired that first shot, that caused them to be ramped up, their guns out blazing. And so basically what he said, would put all this into perspective for me, because I see both sides, right? He said that they want to go home too. They have families too. So when they pull you over and if you're ramped up and you talking back and you going at it with them, guess what? His energy level's coming up. Now he's got his gun on his hand on his gun because he don't know, what's going to happen next. So like you said, Norman and Mike, you definitely have to do right. One of the viewers here said, they said, one guy here said he's been driving in the transportation business for 40 years. He said, you got to keep your cool when they stop you. Somebody else said, don't be riding dirty. Norman, that's what you said in terms of having your paperwork together. And somebody else said, no sudden moves, keep your hands both visible, do what they tell you to do. And somebody else said, watch out who's riding in your car. So, at the end of the day, it sucks and you might be mad that they're asking you whatever, but if you just comply, do what they say, and if they are crooked, wrong, went to the far left, then just live. And like I said, sue. Sue. I'm sure it happens all the times, yo. Okay, so guys, the next question I want to ask you is what blueprint survival advice would you give the millennials to ensure a longevity life? So you guys obviously have lived into your 50s and 60s. What are some of the tidbits that you would give them so they can live a long life and be prosperous as well? Mark, you want to address that one?
I would say they need to, we all need to control our emotions. You know, you got to control your emotions because you start thinking out of the box. You start doing things that are just out of control that will get you in all kind of trouble. If you feel strong about something, basically, we have a lot of people out there who are in control who are playing chess. And we're playing checkers. So, like someone had told me, don't become the portrait that someone's trying to paint of you.
Oh.
There are stigmas put on us. And I'm not just speaking of Black males, people in general. You have biases. You have people who want to grade people based on whether they have money or whether they don't. Just, treat everyone the way you want to be treated. If you have a problem or if there's something going on that you don't agree with, there's a certain way you deal with it. Just like in the late 60s, Martin Luther King, the civil rights movement, the way they dealt with it, everybody didn't agree with that. They felt like, oh, you're supposed to get violent. You're supposed to start beating people down. No. You kill them with kindness. And those actions caused us to have success with the civil rights movement by doing it that way. But I know a lot of millennials, a lot of people feel like, oh, we have to get their attention. You can't tear down your neighborhood. You can't go about it that way. You have to be smart. Martin Luther King, back then, they were strategic,
Yeah.
So basically, going back to what I said, they were playing chess.
Yeah.
You know, now I think these millennials today, not everyone, everybody's not playing chess. They're operating on emotion. You got to control it. If you have a problem with laws, well, there's certain ways you deal with that. You get together, you vote, but you don't go being violent, disrespectful, and tearing up stuff. So that's just part of it. I can go on and on and on with it.
That's
But
awesome. That's awesome. And you're right. And I like what you said about Martin Luther King. They strategize, you know, even when it goes back to John Lewis and the bridge that they walked over, they knew the odds of them getting beat that day was strong. That's why they had the media out there so the media could capture it. And once the media captured it, it went worldwide. Now Lyndon B. Johnson has to approve the Civil Rights Act. So, right.
it needed to be exposed, and it was.
Yep. It
Um,
was strategic,
you know,
definitely.
and I've spoke to John Lewis on several occasions before he passed.
Hmm.
Good man, you know, told me about things that occurred back then, but they were smart, and it worked to some degree.
Mhm, definitely. Norman, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think, for me, and I think it would be good even for millennials, is if you want to have a prosperous life, the first thing you have to understand is it's a full-time job to stay out of jail.
Mm,
Just like you go to work every day and whatever you are aspiring to do, you have to work at maintaining your freedom.
mhm,
Because as long as you can maintain your freedom, then the possibilities for your life is endless. You have to keep yourself from getting locked up.
mhm,
Secondly, you need to invest in yourself. And what I mean by that is like education, investing in trades, investing in things that's going to make you better. In other words, prepare for rain. So when the rain comes, you have the credentials and everything you need in order to succeed and have a prosperous life. And you can only do that if you have a full-time job of staying out of jail.
ooh,
That means you're going to have to be particular about who you keep company with.
That's
You're
good.
going to have to be particular about even the people that you date. Everybody don't have your best interests at heart. So, you know, Mike, Mark, and myself, we've been friends for 20, 30 years. Find you someone that you can trust, someone that's going to have your back no matter what. A true friend is not going to hurt you. These are some of the things that will allow you to be prosperous,
mhm,
for the millennials and to be able to see 50 and 60 and 70 and 80 years old.
mhm. That's awesome advice. Awesome advice.
Surround yourself around positive people doing positive things. Um, there's a big difference.
Definitely. Because if you're running with people that aren't doing right, then that's going to wear on you. Mike, what do you give advice to? Is that kind of along the same lines of the
Yeah,
advice that
what
you
they
give?
say.
See, and that's a perfect example. The three of you been friends for so long, and that you have the same narrative. You're trying to strive and go in the same direction, and that's beautiful. That's awesome, and that's what millennials and people like need to do. They said if your room or your group is not doing the right thing, leave the group, leave the room, go get with some guys that are doing the right thing, and you guys are obviously a clear example of that. That's awesome. I love it. So
See
with
what I
that,
will what I will add though.
uh-huh.
We don't want the millennials to think that we know it all.
Oh,
We
okay.
just been there where they they need to strive to where we are.
Mhm.
They can learn, like we learn from our elders, they can learn from us. But at the same time, even though we're older, because we don't know everything,
Mhm.
um, we can learn from them as well. I'm gonna use this as an example from a previous relationship. This is to tell you how things have really changed. We was out eating. I made a comment about this guy rapping to this chick. I said, "Oh, he over there rapping." So the younger female that was with us, she said, "He's a rapper." I said, "No, it's just the way that he's talking to her. He's trying to get her phone number, so on like that." So then the other person was like, "Yeah, he's like hollering at her." No, I said that wrong. The other female that was with us, okay, it was three females. I'm the only male. So the other female said that he, to let the younger one know that he's hollering at her. So she's like, oh, okay. But then the older female was like, he didn't holler at her. Said, no, okay, like rapping, that's hollering. That's, so there's a big gap difference in between there. So,
Yeah. Wow. And it's good that you say that because like Mike said, I'm sure the three of you, you all make mistakes. You all have gone through trials and tribulations. So, I'm sure you're not perfect, but the hardest thing is as a parent, I can speak from me and Mark, is that when you sit in the front row and you have to watch it unfold in a movie or a play and you want to say, no, don't go down that road. And I know what Mark tells our children a lot is, I'm telling you this because I don't want to see you make the same mistake. So it's good to hear you guys say you're not perfect. You go through things as well. But if you have somebody older in your life, definitely listen to them. And that brings me to the next question of,
We're just trying to give them a shortcut. That's
absolutely,
all.
that's it. So with
But
that,
life's lessons.
yep, yep. Do you think that more successful Black men like yourselves in our community should volunteer more to help with the younger generation that may not have a father figure at home? And if so, why do you think they aren't doing it? What's your thoughts on that, Mark? What's your thoughts on that?
Um, I feel that if they're willing to listen, sometimes you can kind of tell if someone is willing to listen. And then at certain ages, I would figure that sometimes they just don't want to listen, but it wouldn't hurt to try. Um, some may listen, some might not listen. Some may reflect on it years later and say, wow, he was right. There are things I reflect on and I say, well, I say, wow, my father told me, oh yeah, you don't understand now, but you'll understand later. And I'm like, he's tripping. And later on, I understood. So
And Norman, what do you have to add to that?
Well, I think that first of all, our young people, their lives are very important and they are our future. So I think that, we have to take time to be willing to invest in the young people in regards to those who actually needs the help. And then I think we have to be consistent. You can't be there partially. If you're really going to be there to help mentor them and to nurture them and to build them, then you're going to have to be consistent in your approach. And there are going to be some that are going to reject, but there are going to be some that are going to become a sponge. And those are the ones that you're going to have to focus on. As I said before, we can't save everyone, but there's someone out there that's looking for someone to provide that direction, that guidance, someone that they can trust, someone that, that they can count on. And consistency is the key. And, oftentimes, when we're at the point that we're at now, when we're successful businessmen and we have, good jobs and stuff like that, we feel like we've made it. But no, the key to that is to bring other people, to enlighten them and also allow them to be able to share in the things that you, because see, none of it's really for us, it's for everyone else. And I think that's where we're failing at is that, you hear that saying, well, I got mine, you got to get yours. That's the wrong attitude. That's why the Black families are hurting and even other families are hurting now. We have to reinvest. That's the key. And if there's some millennials out there that's willing to allow someone to reinvest in young people, then once you identify that becomes your next goal.
Definitely. And Mike, what you said earlier about the language barrier, the generation, somebody said we have to be open to learning so that we can adjust to our changing society and situations we may possibly face. It's funny, I could share this personally. I don't think Mark would mind. One day he came home and I was watching some rap video and he was like, what are you watching? And it was crazy. I mean, with respect to the generation, their rap music is different from ours, right? Run DMC. So anyways, I was watching it and I said, I'm just trying to understand because I have a 20 and a 23-year-old, we got our kids are in the 20s and I'm just trying to understand what are the millennials, how they think and how they move and why do they dress that way? What's the new lingo? So I agree with the viewer here that said you got to try to bridge that gap, like what you were saying, Mike, earlier, rapping versus hollering. So
right.
definitely, and Mark, you're right. They got to be open to wanting the help. They
where
definitely.
you were really enjoying it.
That's funny. And somebody else said, just telling what the live audience is saying. Somebody said, stop talking all the time, just listen, and you can learn if some people from the old school. Yeah. So in other words, they're saying, stop thinking you know everything and stop talking. Listen, like you, Mark and Norma saying, just listen to what your elders are saying. Somebody else said, Mark, you are excellent son. Oh, that's your mom. That is why you are the man that you are. Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. So, again, nobody's perfect. We've all made mistakes, but hey, young people, listen to us so we can tell you how not to make the same mistakes as well. So, Norman, we understand you are a reverend, and so I'm going to ask you if you could just bless us. Right now, we got so much going on with the election. Food prices are high. People are out of work. Some people have kids at home in school. They're not able to go to school. It's just crazy. They're out of work. What words of encouragement would you give us in relation to the Bible and God? How do you have anything you would like to share with us?
Well, I think most importantly, we have to understand that God loves and he loves everyone. The word tells us that God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, that whosoever believes should not perish but have everlasting life. Oftentimes when we look at that, we don't understand that that's an unconditional love. And that means that, we have been created in his image and God wants us to prosper. And we're going to be faced with difficulties in life because we're living in a fallen state. And what I mean by that is, it's a sinful state that we're living in regards to the pestilence and the wars and the rumors of wars, the lack of peace and love for one another that's waxing cold. But God says that he is the author of that love. And if we don't reject his love, but allow his love to come into our lives, then we would have a more prosperous life. And what I mean by that is not necessarily a bunch of material things, but we will have more love in our hearts. We will have more peace as we go through different trials and tribulations. We will have more joy in our life. There are a lot of broken homes, a lot of people who've lost a lot of loved ones during the pestilence. And, when you have that opportunity of someone praying for you and you have the ability to even pray for yourself and ask God for comfort, ask God for advice, ask God for direction, you'd be surprised how a weight could be lifted off you just establishing a relationship. So, I would say that experience his love, because if you experience his love, once that love engulfs you, then life is going to become so much more easier for you. It's all about love, the essence of love. And when you have love, love conquers a multitude of sins.
Mm.
That's what I would share.
That is so deep. That is so deep. Well, let me ask you this then. So, guys, with regards to what Norma said, and you're absolutely right, Norma. I think that's awesome. That's the word that we need to hear to touch our spirits, definitely. But what if there's somebody out there that's watching that don't know about God and don't know how to be respectful? What do they do? Where do they go? Do they reach out to a church, or what are your thoughts on that?
But there are a lot of
Well,
programs. Go ahead, Norman.
Okay. Well, I think that first of all, we have to understand that when we talk about a church, the church is made up of a body of believers. It's not a wall. It's not, a place. It's a person. And so if you find a person, that's loving, that's caring, that could be a starting place for you. And you can ask them, can you share with me, why you feel that way, why you do the things that the way you do? Because sometimes if we get caught up in a building and in a congregation, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're serving God. So you got to be careful where you go to seek, deliverance and guidance.
Definitely. And Mark, what were you going to say?
I was going to say that, um, there are programs out there. There are people who are out there willing to help. You just have to be careful where you send your child, because there's so much stuff going on out there. It has to be someone that you trust with, being with your child.
So maybe send them to like a Big Brother program where they vet the Big Brother, check the Big
Right.
Brother out.
That's
Okay.
what I was getting at. But, you have to trust them.
Hmm. Hmm. Mike, what are your thoughts on that?
I totally agree. Um, the thing is, the parents have to trust the the like say the boys club or the big brothers have to trust them to do what they got to do to help them out. We need to bring the village back together where everybody watched off one another instead of like the teachers are having a hard time with these kids today because of the back talk. They can't do nothing to them. So if we bring the village back together and the kids say, okay, well, I'm gonna get in trouble here and I'm gonna get in trouble again when I get home, it'll be more. I feel like everything will come back to how we was brought, because that's how we was brought up.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I agree. I definitely agree that we got to bring it back so we can all look out for each other. I know being a kid growing up, you had to be in before the street lights was on, right? And if you did something, Miss Mary Bay down the street, she gonna tell your mama, or
Hmm.
they all kept a lookout for us. Definitely, definitely. So, any closing remarks, gentlemen? Anything you want to leave? The live audience is just loving this. They're loving it. So much comments are saying that's true. Knowledge is power. Any closing remarks that you may have, Mark, to leave with the younger generation?
I would say keep God first. And if you're going to play the game, you need to be playing chess, not checkers.
Mm, definitely, definitely. And Norman, what would you say?
What I would say to the millennials and to the audience is, when you're dealing with love, it's a personal relationship. We have to stop looking at what everybody else is doing and down in the church and degrading God's word, and understand that it's based on a personal relationship between you and your Lord and Savior, which would be Jesus Christ. In my case, it's a personal relationship. Develop that personal relationship, and you will find that your life will change.
Okay, awesome, awesome. And Norman, can you share with the audience your church information if they want to seek out your church and get some counseling and learn how to get saved, baptized, how they learn the Word of God? Can you share that with the audience in case there's somebody out there that's lost?
Absolutely. You can find us at Set Free Atlanta Community Church Facebook. You can also, our location, we're located at 970 Point South Parkway in Jonesboro, Georgia. And also, we do have Set Free Atlanta Community Church at YouTube as well. So those are some of the outlets that you can find for your resources. We're here to help. We're not a church that's going to judge you. We're a church here to love you unconditionally, because the church is filled up with sin, and everyone has sin, and
Yes.
no sin greater than any other sin. Sin is sin. And so the church is for sinners, for those of you who don't know that.
Amen. 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 And Mike, any closing remarks? Because I know all your younger generation that watch you and skate with you and all that. Anything you want to say to them? Just
Just be yourself. Listen. Um, you'll go a long way to reach to where we are now.
absolutely.
And and just remember that your parents being where you are.
Hmm.
Don't think that the parents don't know. Don't think that the parents are stupid.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
sometimes we play stupid just to see how we give you much more rope to see how much you gonna hang yourself with.
Yep. And I'm gonna leave you guys with this thought. Mark, you probably remember this. A couple years ago, we were downtown and we went to somebody's birthday, and it was, the old school, our generation, right? And so as we're leaving, there's a long line of young millennials waiting to get in the club. So the old folks had to leave. And Mark, he had his hat on, we were walking. And so this guy said, "Dang, they old." And Mark turned around and said, "You better hope you live to be this old." So you're right, like you got to do right. You got to do right so you can live and be prosperous. Well, guys, I thank you so much for coming on Let's Talk. This is huge. This is an honor. The live audience is going crazy. They're all loving everything that you guys are saying. Um, Somebody even said, Norman, if you need somebody, Norman Hurst, I need to reach out. Yeah, somebody wants to reach out to you, Norman, for your pastoring and Everybody's just saying you guys are on point. So definitely. And guys and girls out there, millennials, if you're lost and you want to be saved and you need some direction, definitely look at Norman and his church. And if for any reason that you are afraid or any of that, you can inbox me and I'll make sure I get your information over to somebody. So thank you
And
guys.
I can vouch for him.
Okay.
I can vouch for him also.
and I'm gonna lead us like, let's talk, let's talk. You talking about let's talk? We can all talk.
We can talk.
Right. I like that. I like that. Absolutely. Absolutely. But thank you guys for gracing the virtual stage of Let's Talk. Your knowledge and wisdom goes really far, and I thank you for coming on. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks.
Stay safe.
All
Okay.
right.
All right.
Bye.
All right. Bye.
And there's you saw, ladies and gentlemen, that was Mark, Mike, and Norman. They've been very good friends for a very, very long time, and they stay in contact with one another even during the pandemic. And they're just trying to just keep going and again spread the love and everything to help everybody out. So again, anybody that's younger than us out there, just know that we're not perfect, but we definitely want to give you the blueprint to help you succeed. And if you are lost or you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. So we thank you for that. So in closing, I want to leave you with two positive thoughts tonight. The first one comes from an old book that's been around since the end of time, the Bible. It comes out of 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 58, and it says, "Therefore, my dear brothers and sisters, stand firm. Let nothing move you. Always give yourselves fully to the work of the Lord, because you know that your labor in the Lord is not in vain." So stand fast, stand strong, and just know that you will get through it. If you can't get through it by yourself, get through it with family, friends. If you don't have any family, friends, reach out. There is somebody out there that can help you. So stand firm, and this too shall pass, whatever it is that you're dealing with. The second thing comes from one of my sheroes, Oprah Winfrey. She says, "Be thankful for what you have. You'll end up having more. If you concentrate on what you don't have, you will never ever have enough." And so that is huge. I think that's awesome as well. Just concentrate on what you have, perfect what you have, improve yourself where you are, and before you know it, you'll get to where you want to be, and you won't even realize that you got there. Like, how did I get here? So just keep pressing forward. Don't let anything discourage you. The elections, the economy, job loss, police brutality, all that. Just stay focused and just keep God in your heart, and surround yourself with good people. And lastly, if for any reason you are mad and you're angry and you're burning hot, like Mark said earlier, take it out, go vote. Please vote. Please vote. If in your state is early voting, get out there now. If it's an absentee ballot in your state, get it in. If not, make sure you vote. We have 11 days, and vote like your life depends on it, because it really does. So you guys stay out there and vote. Stay safe and stay healthy. So as you know, every week I tell you guys you can purchase my books on my website at www.dtlproduct.net, or you can go on Amazon and type in my author name, Dre, D-R-E space L-E-T-T. And every week you can view Let's Talk on several platforms. You can go on Facebook. There's three pages you can view it. You can view it on Let's Talk with author Dre Lett. That's a page. You can also view it on DTL Productions and Dre Lett. On Instagram, you can watch and follow me with the name author_Dre Lett. And on YouTube, you can watch all the shows. You can binge watch if you want. They're all there for you. Make sure you hit like and subscribe. It's free to subscribe. And that channel is called Let's Talk with author Dre Lett. You guys stay safe, be blessed, have a great weekend and a great week. And with that, I'm out.